But to be a dropout of school today, to quit school today before you go as far as you can, means to aim a loaded pistol at your life. It means playing the game of Russian roulette with your chances of success. If your education falters or fails, everything else that we attempt as a nation will fail. If you fail, America will fail. If our schools and our students succeed, we will succeed. If you succeed, America will succeed. It is just as simple and just as difficult as that. This quote from President Lyndon Johnson is still incredibly relevant to our nation today. However, this was part of a speech from 1966 in which he addressed Chicano education, or rather, the lack thereof, Chicanos or Mexican Americans, much like other ethnicities in the historical moment, wanted a fair chance to achieve the elusive American dream. The 1960s brought many changes to America. In a time when Vietnam was shaking the very core of the world, El Movimiento, better known as the Chicano Civil Rights Movement, brought considerable change not only for Chicano political and social agendas, but also for the foundation of any great race or ethnicity education.
Much like African Americans, many Chicanos attended schools that were segregated in the early 20th century. The 1947 federal court case of Mendez v. Westminster challenged segregation of Chicano and Mexican children in California, in which students were placed in Mexican schools. The decision led to the official desegregation of California schools, which would ripple through areas of Southwest, including Pueblo, Colorado. Even though schools were desegregated, separate but equal was still apparent in schools. Chicano students were instructed to stop speaking Spanish and become more American, or white out. In the 1960s, Mexicans did not receive the same education as white students. Girls were educated primarily in domestics, how to sew, cook, and take care of the soon-to-be children and families. The males were given vocational training, specifically how to be mechanics, to farm, and to work at the steel mill. With children attending school, their fathers were either farming or working, while their mothers were cooking or cleaning, usually other people's houses. The social status and stigma of being Mexican limited them in their educational rights. Most teachers didn't believe Mexican children would need much education because they would drop out anyways. Teachers assumed they are doing a great service to the Chicano students by limiting their education to specific outcomes, forgetting that all students can achieve success if they are given the proper tools. LBJ addressed the dropout rate of Chicanos, stating 53% of Mexicans have less than 8 years of school. That means the majority of Chicanos in the historical moment dropped out around the 7th grade, the same grade that we are all in right now. Tired of school systems that had failed them and only deepened the racial divide, students in the East LA decided the best way to be heard was to go public. People needed to know what was happening in schools across the country to students of Mexican descent. They wanted access to a bilingual and bicultural education, with smaller class sizes, modern facilities, updated textbooks that would include Chicano history, and people like them, Latino teachers and administrators, as role models. Walkouts or blowouts were organized to hit the school systems where they would hurt, their pockets. If students walked out before attendance, it would lessen the amount of funding provided to schools. The walkouts gained significant attention. Though their demands were not immediately met, it did bring to light a situation that had been tucked away in the dark for too long. It gave many young Chicanos growing up in the moment a sense of belonging, pride, and a chance at becoming leaders in their own communities. Influenced by the protests in East LA, a domino effect occurred in Pueblo, Colorado, a city in a state largely comprised of migrant farming families and steelworkers. Chicano students were inspired by the walkouts in East LA. The first walkout occurred at Centennial High School in May of 1970 with the help of the Brown Berets, a pro-Chicano nationalist organization. Students were tired of being discriminated against and seeking similar education reform like their Chicano peers in LA simply blew out of school and circled around the building. The initially peaceful walkout escalated quickly and became violent. The school district was not impressed. More walkouts and walk-ins occurred, not only in high schools, but also in some middle schools and grade schools. In 1973, with the development of an affirmative action program, the district started to meet the demands of the Chicano community by hiring Chicano teachers and administrators and implementing Chicano studies and/or Southwest studies.
I am Karen Ortiz, principal at Pueblo Academy of Arts. To me, leadership is about service. It's really about service. A lot of people will consider a leadership as being the boss, but I consider it you being the servant of other people. So when you are leading others, you're really helping and serving others in a role that will make them become better at what they do. I think part of it was not having leaders when I was growing up that looked like me. That was part of it. The only people that I ever saw that looked like me, that came from my heritage or my background, were the people that cleaned the school or worked in the cafeteria. And so it was really very important to me from a very young age to do everything that I could do. So I loved school. Part of that was just really working hard, because I knew the one way to get out of the neighborhood that I grew in was by becoming educated. That really was the ticket. And my dad and mom knew that. And so they really instilled in me the fact that education was important and that you should do everything that you could in order to better yourself. When I was growing up in this town, there was a huge division among people of color and people not of color. And especially the word Chicano or Chicana was really a word for rebels. And my parents, who had grown up in the 50s and in the 60s when John F. Kennedy was president, they really embraced civil rights and equality. And so they did not raise me understanding the value of being a person of color, a Chicana. And so it wasn't until I grew up and understood what it meant and what the movement meant that I embraced it. And I embraced not just that, but I embrace it for everyone. It's really about being understanding and tolerant of all people, no matter of their religious beliefs, no matter of their skin color, no matter of their gender, whatever it might be. It's just about loving each other and all of us accepting each other for who we are.
The Chicano movement paved the way for modern-day Hispanics to become affluent leaders of their communities. Pioneers such as Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta brought reform of labor laws and racial inequality to the forefront of the generation and built the foundation for modern-day Chicanos in America. The Brown Berets and the Chicano students who walked out helped to create the education system that we are a part of today. Education, even in its infancy, can impact any student, regardless of their socioeconomic status, gender, or location. The dropout rate for Hispanics today in Colorado and across the nation is significantly lower than it was in the 1960s. According to the CDE, the Colorado Department of Education, the dropout rate for Hispanics in the class of 2014 was 3.8%. With access to a quality education, nothing is impossible. El Movimiento affected all Chicano people. It allowed countless young Chicano children to see someone like them who had made it, someone to look up to, and someone to aspire to be. No longer were their prospects in life limited because of their education. They could be whatever they wanted to be: doctors, lawyers, teachers, principals, even president. All that is needed is education, a role model, and people who believe in you. People always wonder whether leaders are born or made. We have all seen great examples of both men and women who are born leaders, or rose from the ashes to become leaders. What is clear is the message that is received and accepted from these men and women. What they have left behind, their legacy. Though many need tangible proof that a leader's vision was achieved, we know better because we are the legacy that our leaders left behind. Leaders like our great-grandfathers and grandmothers, the migrant farmers, Cesar Chavez, the everyday hardworking mothers, fathers, students, teachers, principals. Our education will leave a legacy for the next generation. Yo soy Chicano!